Hi guys, it's ALCHEMY. How's everyone doing? Good, 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 I hope. It's time for another questions and answers video. Since I've been away, there's been a lot of questions building up. So recently I just did that amazing little filter you can do, where you filter your comments to find out which comments have questions in them. Picked a bunch and I'm gonna answer them. Thank you to everyone who asks questions. I appreciate it. All right, let's just get into it. Okay, bye. So the first question comes from Keith Gray. This is a name I recognize. Hello, Keith. I think you've asked questions before. This was on something that I did in a park. The thumbnail doesn't look quite right. I don't know which one it was. I think it might have been a spotlight. I don't know. Anyway, it says, "Hi Thomas, I've been getting into floral frags lately. What is a fave white floral of yours? And are there any perfumes that smell like stargazer lilies? Thanks." Okay, this has been a whole journey. The white floral journey has been a whole thing for me. It started out with Michael Kors' Michael, his original fragrance. First time I smelled that, I was absolutely entranced, crazed by it, and then it all got reformulated and it went to rubbish. The thing is, there are a lot of white flowers out there. There's tuberose, jasmine, lilies, orange blossom, freesia, it's gonna escape me, but there are a lot. My favorite white floral in perfume pretty much is tuberose, but nowadays it gets overdone. It's always put with too sweet notes. It's always syrupy, vanillic tuberoses, and it's kind of actually put me off of the flower. It's gonna have to be Carnal Flower by Frederic Malle. Yeah, it might be an obvious choice, but I don't think, in terms of tuberose, I don't think anything else comes close. I've smelled things that are similar. I've smelled lots of kind of rough green tuberoses, but Carnal Flower always takes the cake. It remains in my top 10. I will share with you though a recent discovery of mine, and it is this one. It's by Rania J, and it's called, it's really hard because everything's reflecting, Jasmine Kama, or Kama, I hope I'm saying that right, because it's actually named after an Indian god. What an absolutely exquisite Egyptian jasmine perfume. Very, very cool, very nicely placed. Anyway, that's my favorite white floral. Are there any fragrances that smell like stargazer lilies? The closest thing I have found has been a perfume called Paris Seychelles, and it's by Pierre Guillaume. It smells like those 6-petaled lilies, that rough kind of, you know, dark one. And I think the name changed, so maybe have a look at that, but that's the one I found that's the closest. It's kind of dry, scratchy, kind of spicy lily. But yeah, that's the one that springs to mind. I literally print these questions off and glance at them, and then I just answer the question. So sometimes I get a bit, I don't know, it's a little bit off the cuff. Anyway, hopefully that helps. Thanks for your question. All right, let's move through them because yeah, we're going to be here a while. So the next question comes from Kosis, and it says, this was on my Nanban review by Archiste. It says, "I would love to hear your updated thoughts on this fragrance. Have you found fragrances similar to this one which you now prefer over this one?" The short answer is absolutely not. Nanban still remains in my top 10 perfumes ever, and it still will. I don't think anything is going to come close to that sort of style for me. It has so many elements that it's just fascinating. And I actually wore it recently when I went to get my hair cut, and the barber said, "Oh my God, what is that? What, you have really nice aftershave on. I need to know what it is." And then I offered to take him a sample. It was a whole thing. But Nanban is just so exquisite. It's very dark, weird, leathery, sandalwood, pepper, tea, coffee, other spices, lots of sandalwood, resins, myrrh. Oh gosh, it's everything I like in one bottle, and I will always compare things to it that I find in that style. So yeah, the answer is no. The next question is from Lola Rue, and this was on my Lush, one of my Lush videos that I did where I showed lots of Lush perfumes all together that I had, and it says, "Does Sappho smell similar to Lust?" The short answer again is no. They are very, very opposite. Lust is a massive vampiric, crazy, gothic, bombastic jasmine, and Sappho is a tobacco iris, kind of powdery-ish type smell, a little bit smoky. The only thing they share is the touch of smokiness, but really they're kind of at opposite ends of the scale. So if you like Lust and you want to get Sappho, they're not the same at all. Okay, thanks. The next question comes from Lone Wolf, and it says, this was on my Electimus video that I did where I gave my 5 favourite fragrances by Electimus. They're a new-ish UK brand, all inspired by Roman mythology, gladiators, Roman paintings, cherubs, things like that. And you said, have you tried Octavian? The answer is yes, because I tried every single one of them before doing my top 5. And Octavian, I can't remember, unfortunately. But the answer is yes, I have tried it. It didn't make my top 5 though. Sorry about that. The next question comes from Mr. Moneypenny, and this one was on my Knee magazine. Can't remember which issue it is. I don't know. It's the one with the marijuana leaf on it. It says, it is really amazing magazine. Do you have any of those thematic editions? The Naturals notebooks like Tuberose in Perfumery, Oris in Perfumery, and so on. Yes, I do. And do you know what? I actually haven't read them yet, but I want to get them all. But they release them so quick. Every time I go onto websites, there's another one popped up. The ones I have are these. I have the Patchouli one and I have the Rose one. Both of these are really cool. They are, for me, in terms of price, I think they should be a little bit less because they're almost as much as an actual Ney magazine, but they're much smaller in comparison and also thinner. But they're lovely. They're lovely if you really want to dive into a specific note. And if you're a fan of Ney magazine anyway, you know, they're very collectible. They have really nice pictures, just like all of the other Ney magazines really. It's like a mini version, but just focusing on one thing. So yeah, I do want all of them. It's my Gemini personality. I like to collect things. And yeah, since these ones, there's another, I think there's probably 13 of them now. How do we survive this life, guys, with the things that we love? How do we afford this life? The next question comes from Mrs. Press. How are you doing? I hope you're doing good over there in the US of A. And this was on my Visa review by Robert Piguet. And it says, I'm watching this because reading reviews of V Intense, it seems people believe it's just a rebranding of Visa, but the notes aren't the same. Anyhow, I'm wanting to find an amazing plum dominant scent. Any suggestions? Plum's a really tricky one because, you know, it's one of those fantasy notes. It's kind of like grape, you know, it's like grape scented things or grape flavored things don't taste like what an actual grape tastes like. And the taste of plums, I've never seen present in an actual perfume because you can't distill them. So it's always that fantasy dark fruit element. The first thing I would say is, you know, sometimes stick to what you know. Poison by Christian Dior is one of the ultimate plummy fragrances. But yes, one of the most tricky at the same time. You got to get through that tuberose, you got to get through that crazy incense, you got to get through that 80s wall of craziness. Some of the others I've found have been where it's only been a kind of element and it's not really about plum, and they are. Midnight Fantasy by Britney Spears. Yep, cheapy but goody. It's actually always remained my favourite of the Britney Spears perfumes, and it's a kind of blueberry plumish feeling, I think. Whatever perfumers portray to be plum at least, and I really like that one. I'm sure you've smelled that one before, but that's the one I immediately go to. Also Marc Jacobs Decadence. I've owned this fragrance. I've owned multiple bottles of it. That one's a good one. It almost hits that plum thing that you want, but then it's also violet and woody and a little bit smoky as well. That one is also a top 10 designer perfumes ever, and it definitely has a plumminess going on in there. And yeah, I can think of other fragrances with plum, but not where it feels plummy, so I'm going to leave it there. And I know they're very obvious suggestions, but plum is a very tricky one. Plum one, tricky one, tricky one. The next question comes from Rijin Kadanapalli. What a fantastic name that is, wow. And this was on my Beaufort Via Armis review, and he or she asks, this or Tonnerre, which is best? I will always choose Via Armis over Tonnerre. If anyone knows Beaufort London, they are a brand that specialises in smoke and darkness and gothic and history and all of those things. Tonnerre for me is basically straight up birch tar. I don't really get much else from it. There is other things going on, a tiny bit. They say there's lime and there's brandy and all these things. Via Armis is way more interesting, as challenging as Tonnerre, but Via Armis always wins. It's the one Beaufort that I own, and it remains the one Beaufort that I own even after smelling newer releases. So yeah, Via Armis for sure. The next question comes from Robert Latusseau, and this was on my incense perfume collection video that I did. And it says, I'm looking for myrrh prominent fragrances. Any suggestions? I'm not particularly fond of vanilla or gourmand notes. Thank you in advance. Myrrh is lovely. Myrrh is great. If you like it, you like it. My favorite myrrh fragrances are Lita by Vogue. I really like, there's an Armani Privé one which is called Myrrh Imperial. I'm not sure if that one still exists. I think it does. This one here is absolutely fantastic as well. This is kind of in the lines of Tom Ford's Sahara Noir, which you can't get anymore, but this one I think you can. This is by Art Profumi and it's called Sam Haram. Oh my gosh. This is a really, really good myrrh. Oh. Yeah, I only got this recently, which is why I'm kind of gushing over it right now. But this is for the fans of Sahara Noir that are mourning its death, shall we say. This is called Sam Haram, yeah, and this is a really good, it's almost like straight up myrrh. There's some labdanum, I think, going on in here as well, but that's a really, really good one if you want to try myrrh. And it's not sweet, there's no vanilla going on in there at all. Another one is Le Trois by Diptyque, and that one is, while primarily being frankincense-y, there is myrrh in the background. Myrrh's like the supporting resin to rosemary and frankincense. So try those ones out. The next question came on my Saffron Rose review by Grossmith London. Gosh, I hated the way I looked in that review. It was in my old place with the horrible lighting and it was just really bad. Anyway, it's from Raringu Sanda. And it says, I'm looking for a review of Full Nana, but I can't find any in English. Have you tried it? It's a Grossmith fragrance, I think. Full Nana is a Grossmith fragrance. It's one of their 3 original collections that were made way back in the 1800s. And the 3 of them, just a little bit of background history, were designed to evoke feelings of travel, because back then a lot of people couldn't afford to travel to these exotic places. So Full Nana is the Indian inspired perfume. It means beautiful flower in Hindi. I have not only tried it, I've worn it a lot of times, a lot of times, and it's absolutely beautiful. Very vintage feeling, very white floral, but dries down to this very woody but also powdery type feel. It's very complex. It feels like it's got 100 notes in it, and it's one of those ones that you will only like it if you love throwback feeling perfumes. But they really worked around these white flowers and added powder into it and lots of, I think, sandalwood, and when it dries it goes sharp and powdery at the same time. Very hard to explain, you just have to try it. But yes, I've tried it. I've tried every single Grossmith fragrance, pretty much, apart from the ones that were from the 1800s that they never released. But anyway, yeah, I have, and it's lovely. So try it out if you can. The next question comes on one of my Amouage ones. I think that's Faye, I don't know, or maybe it's, I don't know. You'll see it in the picture. I can't remember which Amouage it was, but it's from Shift Drift Drive. Okay, says, love this. Would you be able to tell me which the best jasmine fragrance is? Also, which Amouage is the sweetest? Fruit sweet instead of rose. The sweetest Amouage I've experienced is Crimson Rocks. Absolutely beautiful. Want it in my fragrance. Want it in my collection, sorry. Don't really wear sweet fragrances at all, but this one was really, really nice. You could also try, definitely Sunshine Woman. That's the one. I got there in the end. Sunshine Woman's a great one. I remember trying it, and it's a joyous fruity perfume by Amouage. It's essentially a white floral, but it has blackcurrant and it has a big osmanthus feeling. And although that's a flower, it smells kind of somewhere in the middle of peachy apricot type smell. So Sunshine Woman would be definitely the go-to fruity Amouage. Try it out. And it's gold and glittery and it's really, really nice, but I don't have it. Best jasmine fragrance, that's such a big question. I mean, gosh, there are so many of them. I can only tell you my favorite ones. One of them is Opus 1, this red bottle behind me here, that's by Amouage. Speaking of Amouage, That's quite a dirty, funky, spicy jasmine. I really like this one I just talked about before, this Rania J Jasmine Karma. I love Olen by Diptyque. It's a lovely honeysuckle jasmine, really nice with a bit of wisteria as well. And I love A La Nuit by Serge Lutens. That one's an unfussy, let's just smell like jasmine today kind of perfume with a couple of supporting notes, but really it's mainly about the jasmine. So really nice. There's so many, gosh, I could go on for hours, but I won't. The next question comes from Vomitorium or Vomitorium. I really hope I don't butcher people's names. This was on my État Libre d'Orange. I think it was the best and worst of État Libre d'Orange. And you said, could you recommend 4 État Libre d'Orange Dominatrix perfumes? Also, you said, have you smelled Miss AP from Agent Provocateur? I have not smelled that one, so we'll stick to the Dominatrix perfumes from État Libre d'Orange. Obviously, I'm going to choose Rien or Rien. I hate saying that, it makes me sound like an idiot. That one is their darkest, it's somewhere up here, but you can't see it. That is their darkest leather, but also kind of squeaky clean aldehydic perfume with lots of incense. It's their fragrance that I love, but I only wear it a couple of times a year because the situation never fits. If I was a dominatrix, it would be my signature perfume for sure. The next one goes without saying, Marquis de Sade. That is their leather labdanum, and it's pretty much just labdanum, but it's a very nicely done labdanum. It's smooth, a little bit friendly, which dominatrix are, until they kick your butt. But yeah, I would say Marquis de Sade. Let me think of the 3 and 4. Another one that comes to mind would be Tom of Finland. That one is the one that they collaborated with Tom of Finland, and the artwork was all a lot of kind of scantily clad muscle men cartoons. However, it is a leather, and I don't know why, but dominatrix, I think of leather because of, you know, whips and all that stuff. So yes, definitely Tom of Finland. It's actually quite a soft leather. It's a little bit peppery. And the final one, I'm gonna have to go through the Rolodex of my brain because I used to work with those perfumes, and right now all I can think about is the florals. So, Jasmine et Cigarette. That's the one I'm gonna suggest last. A lot of people think, oh gosh, it's gonna smell like an ashtray. And it actually doesn't. It's a rough, slightly dirty jasmine, but then it's got a, I would say, not so massively pronounced tobacco note. It's not stubbed out cigarette kind of perfume. It's more about tobacco and jasmine, and I think it's kind of sultry, it's dark, it's very sexy. So Jasmine et Cigarette. Hopefully that answers your 4 dominatrix perfumes question. What? The next one came from Alessia Ventimiglia, and this was on my Citizen Queen review by Juliette Hazagan. You asked, does this smell like Putain de Palace by État Libre d'Orange? That's a weird segue into another question, isn't it? But sometimes that's how it works. The answer is no. The only similarity that they share really is that they're both powdery perfumes. Putain des Palaces, or Palace, is a rose violet, kind of jammy rose violet, but with lots of powder. And the Citizen Queen is an iris. So they're both soft, they're both pretty, they're both comforting. But in my opinion, Citizen Queen is far superior. Just depends if you like the rose violet powder or if you like the iris, you know, soft, warm, huggy kind of iris perfume. It's very, very beautiful. That's the one that I own, and I wear it to bed. It's my bedtime perfume when I just want a little bit of a smooch, you know, by myself. Anyway, thanks for your question. The next question came from Anna Rodnarine, and this was on that Amouage that I can't figure out what it is, but it's that blue one from before. I think it's Fate, maybe, or I don't know, Figment, I don't know. Anyway, it says, I see the Coromandel bottle is half empty. Not that I want to sound like a pessimist, but with this fragrance, that's how I see it. Me too, believe me. Are you going to purchase another bottle perhaps, or a new Les exclusive pick of yours? If so, what will it be? I think Coromandel is one of those things that, where is it anyway? It's probably from I don't know, it's up there somewhere. Where it's up here. You can't. It's out of shot. You can't see it. Coromandel is one of those things, because it's in my top 10 perfumes ever. It's one of those things that I don't think I ever want out of my collection. As much as it pains me to say that, yes, I will but purchase another one, the price is just scary as hell, right? It's and they're hiking up every single season. They hike the price up and they just get weaker. I do think it's something I can't live without though. So I don't think there's any other exclusive for me. I've tried a lot of them. Coromandel's always going to win. Yeah, it's the winner. It's a beauty, and mine is half gone, and it's a 200ml one because I spray it with abandon, because why not? Enjoy your perfumes, guys. Biggest tip I can ever give you. Don't let them sit there. Enjoy them. This is a cool question, and this came on a Q&A one. It's the one I've realised that's in the park. It was actually a Q&A, questions and answers, and it's from Benedek Lucasi. And you asked, you often talk about perfume forums in your videos. Could you recommend some forums that you think are worth checking out? Well, there's good old trusty Fragrantica. That's the one that most people that I talk to know or use or go to. I mean, Fragrantica is used for perfume pages, you know, information about individual perfumes and reviews, but the forum on there is pretty great. It can get repetitive, but also the search function, by searching the forum, you can usually find an answer to a question that you want to know, in terms of, I don't know, like, is this discontinued or anything like that. So Fragrantica is usually my go-to. There is another one called Base Notes, although Base Notes gets a little bit of a, let's not say bad rap, but it's a little bit more of a source of contention, I would say. But also there's some great blogs out there. There's some really good ones. There's Carefully Bon, there's the Perfume Shrine is a really good blog if you want to look up things about fragrances from the past, you know, stuff like that. So that's 4. I hope any of those might be a good suggestion, and I hope you fall down the rabbit hole like I have done, and most of us probably watching. The next question came from Debbie Ventimiglia again. This was on my Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab collection video, and it says, there's so many. Yes, there are. I am new to this house. Can you recommend an earthy pine needles, red berries, forest one? Yes, absolutely. It's called Bewitched. You're welcome. The next question came from Eleni Panagiotopoulos. Hello. This was on my top 10 vanilla fragrances from many, many years ago. Thanks, Thomas, for this great video. Well, you're very welcome. Is there a vanilla fragrance you could recommend for summer and the warm Mediterranean climate? Yes, when I think of that, when I think of vanilla in hot weather, I think of the lightest vanilla, you know? We don't want bourbon, we don't want this crazy, syrupy, thick, gloopy vanilla, because that is just, in hot weather, suffocating. The best one I can recommend to you is Vanille Tahiti. It's by Paris Monte Carlo. It's such a lovely, light vanilla that is not too overpronounced. It's not sticky, it's not anything like that. It's very light, very well made, and it's very, very beautiful. It's one of very few vanillas that I think I would wear if I was going to choose a vanilla, because I don't like sweet things. So Vanille de Tahiti, and of course it's Tahitian vanilla, real Tahitian vanilla. Hope that helps. The next question was also on my Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab perfume thing. Oh, the newer version of it, not the old one. And this comes from Jake Steed, and he says, why are they so small? The reason they're so small, Jake, is because they are really highly concentrated perfume oils. When I apply them, I use a pipette usually, and I usually put maybe 2 drops on one wrist and 2 on the other, and then I do that, which I know you probably shouldn't, but some of them are incredibly potent. One of my favorite ones is called Scheherazade, and I wore it to a pub and I didn't wear too much of it, and it was, I could smell myself everywhere. Some of my friends were telling me, whoa, that is, you've got too much perfume on. So a lot of them are very, very strong, so they don't need to be any bigger. You don't need 100 ml perfume oil. So that's why. Okay, 2 questions left. The next one came on my Mon Guerlain, I think it is. I have to look at my thumbnails and remember what video I reviewed, perfume I reviewed. This one's from Jess. Hey Jess. It says, I know this is an older video. This review is helpful. If you see this comment, if a lady were to own one Guerlain, which would you recommend? Thank you. Samsara. period. The 90s version though, hunt it down in the clear bottles. Thank me later. The last question comes from June Miranda, and this is on one of my most recent videos, which was my favorite Chypre style fragrances. And it says, is Coromandel a Chypre? Lots of ties in this video with the Black Phoenix and the Coromandel and everything going on. Anyway, the answer is no, Coromandel is not a Chypre. It is an amber, essentially. It is full of benzoin. It's full of patchouli, which contributes to amber. It's a sweet, kind of gourmand, ambery fragrance. Chypres are much more mossy and dry, which you will know, June, because you watched my Chypre video. That is the last question, and I hope you guys are still alive and surviving and watching this video to the end. Maybe not, who knows. Anyway guys, I'm ALCHEMY. Hope you like this video. I'm trying to make the world smell better, one video at a time. I will see you guys soon. Goodbye.